clear my throat every. Welcome everyone, bienvenidos. My name is Yesenia Sanchez and I'm the children's librarian here at High Meadows. We're so delighted and excited to be hosting DACAMERA as they present the Jalen Baker Trio. You can catch their performance tomorrow evening at Maud Marks Library and Friday night at Spring Branch. You can find all this information at www.hcpl.net. Now, without further ado, Dr. Ellie Parker.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Dr. Ellie Parker. I'm the Director of Education and Community Initiatives at DACAMERA. I first of all just like to extend my thanks to everybody here for hosting us. Thank you to those watching online, and thank you for everyone here live in our audience. It's just wonderful to see you, play for you, and enjoy this evening together. DACAMERA has had a young artist program for almost 12 years. Many of you may know DACAMERA is a chamber music and jazz organization, but for a long time we weren't able to have jazz musicians in our young artist cohort, which was always a kind of an issue for us, right? We always wanted to host the very best and exciting, creative young talent in Houston jazz music. So this year, the Jalen Baker Trio has been our inaugural jazz trio in residence at DACAMERA. We have hosted them at venues across the Houston area. We have invited them to work in elementary schools with young children, as well as in public concerts just like this one. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the Jalen Baker Trio to the stage and enjoy an hour of music with them. Thank you.
One sec. How about it for Nils Aardahl on the bass? And Gavin Moolchan on the drums. So, super excited to be here. I'm Jalen Baker, and we are the DACAMERA Young Artist Trio. So, we're supposed to be here to talk about some jazz, all in, I guess, what's the word? In respect of Black History Month here in February. So that's what we're gonna do. And while I'm catching my breath from playing that very fast tune, we're gonna let Nils talk about his role in the ensemble and his instrument and whatever else he wants to say for the next 2 minutes.
Well, thanks again to everyone for coming out here and coming to the concert and everybody that's joining us through the virtual streaming. As Jalen mentioned, my name is Nils. I play bass, upright bass, and it's been really, really fun to be a part of this trio this past year with DACAMERA. It's the first year they've had jazz as part of the Young Artist program. They've always had great, excellent classical musicians, in graduate school age and beyond, as part of this Young Artist program. This is the first year that they've done a jazz trio as part of that program as well. So it's been really fun to be a part of that. So a little bit about the bass, as you just heard this tune, Take the Coltrane. It's a Duke Ellington tune. It's a blues, it's in traditional jazz settings, every jazz musician, you have to know all these standard forms, which are sets of chord changes and a melody over the top of them. So, we all know these different tunes, so, at any different jam session, you're playing with, for different musicians for the first time, everybody knows a lot of the things in common. You just call a tune until you find something that everybody knows. So Take the Coltrane is a blues in this form. And, when playing a blues, that kind of thing, as an upright bass player, you're looking to kind of both keep the beat, the quarter note walking bass line, but you're also looking to support the, the harmony of the tune as well. So in a sense, you're part of, the rhythm section with, being really locked in with the drums, but then you're also, providing that supporting foundation for the, improvising soloists and everything, as well as supporting the chord changes of the tune and making sure that everything sounds connected. So as a bass player in this type of a tune, playing straight ahead, fast tune like we just did, Jalen counted that one off real quick, make me work hard, it's all quarter note driven, and it's just I guess my job is to support the soloist and also connect with the rest of the rhythm section, the drums and everything in this type of a tune. So
Yeah, for sure. So, like Nils was saying, his job is to support and connect the rhythm section to what's happening melodically. So when we're thinking of music and how music is kind of structured, there's melody, rhythm, melody, and harmony. Probably rhythm being the most in your face, right? Like it's hard to not hear the drums in any genre of music, right? So when Gavin's doing his thing and I'm doing my thing playing the melody, Nils is what's anchoring us harmonically, meaning harmony is like anytime more than one note is happening at the same time. So that's just one note, but if we're thinking harmony, there would be something else there too. So, or when you saw at one point I was playing 4 notes. So that's the harmony of the whole form that we were playing, which is a blues. And when you're thinking of kind of the basis of most American music, it all kind of streams from the blues in the blues form. If anybody goes to church, you'll hear that kind of bluesy sound in a lot of hymns and whatnot. When the pastor's getting to the top of his sermon, and then you hear the organ doing all this rumbling and whatnot, all of that's harmony, and harmony is kind of what backs every song emotionally, right? So you want to think of a happy sound, maybe like a major chord. That sounds pretty like joyful in a sense. If we want to think of more of a sad sound, maybe like a major 7 with a sharp 5, I don't know. A little bit more somber, right? Or if you get really sad, maybe like a minor triad. So kind of his job as the bass player oftentimes is to be able to kind of feel what's happening over here and make decisions emotionally based on what's coming out of a soloist's head or in real time. Nothing is predetermined. We don't really know what's going to happen. We just kind of count off the tune, and what happens. So I didn't know what Gavin was going to play in measure 37 on the 2nd minute of the piece, right? I kind of have to keep my ears open and accept whatever it was that he put out. And since we're speaking about Gavin, we're going to let him talk about the drums and kind of his role in the group.
Cool. Gavin, I'm glad to be here, glad to be able to speak on what I do and what we all do. So my role as a drummer is, basically just, first and foremost, settle into a groove, especially with the bass player. The bass player should be my best friend, in any band that I play in. And just really making sure this cymbal right here or this cymbal over here, depending on the style of music, is really rocking up and fit as tightly as possible with what the bass player is playing. So if we're playing jazz, my quarter note has to, yeah, exactly. My quarter note has to lock up right with him. So. essentially, like, you know, I want to make whatever style of music I'm playing feel as good as possible because, like, you know, the point of any music, or most music is, you know, to be able to like, kind of dance to it. Any speed, anything. So, like, the way that, you know, I can convey that to y'all is just by, like, you know, making my groove and, like, you know, just making everything just kind of like dance from behind the drums to, like, you know, kind of convey to y'all. And to piggyback off of them, you know, they were talking about like a blues form. So like, not only am I responsible for this, but I also have to keep the song, even though I'm not necessarily like playing the melody notes, keep it going in my head. And just so like, I know exactly where we are in the song and, you know, every style of music has its own isms and its own, you know, kind of things that you kind of do that you can really, you know, pick up just by your ear. Like just if you're keeping your ears open and like actively listening to everyone. So like Jalen might play something that will trigger like, you know, my memory where I'll be like, oh, okay, he's probably gonna go to this. And I can, you know, even though we're improvising and kind of, you know, playing stuff on the fly, like there's still some structure and I can kind of tell where he's going musically by like some of the things that he's doing. So like, first and foremost groove, but at the same time, like I'm like really still trying to like keep the melody going in my head and like knowing what the song is and actively like kind of listening to everything going on.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things that Gavin said is we're improvising, but it's still structured. So we're thinking about speaking or communicating with someone. If I ask Nils how his day was, he's not going to say, I don't know, LeBron had 30 tonight, you know. So we're all kind of speaking a similar language just from having listened to not only jazz, but all forms of music. Like Gavin was saying, every genre has its own isms, but most of them are kind of, they toe the line. Like they're very, you can play a lot of the same stuff in a lot of different genres of music. And I think jazz, with it being, we usually call it America's first art form because it was born here. It's not like classical music or things that came before it. It was the first genre of music that was born here in America, from Black African Americans, slaves, the Black church, the Black culture. So as it's grown, it has influenced hip hop, country, current gospel music, blues, everything. So if we're communicating on the stage, we've all have listened to these different styles of music. And if you guys know, they probably hate me for it. I don't count anything off. And I usually don't really tell anybody what we're gonna play. We kind of have a set list and anything's kind of fair game, at least if I'm the person leading things. So it makes it fun, right? It gives everybody a healthy amount of anxiety. So everyone just has to be listening, and since we all have done our homework to this point, it makes it fun to kind of be very in the moment. And, you know, if you're meeting a stranger for the first time, you don't rehearse what you're gonna say to them. Well, maybe you do. That might be good in some instances, but most of the time, you're gonna go and you're gonna say, Nils, how are you?
Great.
Exactly. You know, and as they were demonstrating like kind of the pulse that happens in jazz, there are different subgenres of jazz that have similar, where each instrument has similar responsibilities. Like I didn't even talk about the vibraphone, but I guess I'll do that now before we get into the next piece. This is not a xylophone. I usually have to say that it's a vibraphone. It's in the family of the xylophone, a mallet instrument, most similar to like a marimba, which is an African keyboard instrument, or the bellophone. This is like the American adaptation of it, which is more modern. I think it's only been around 100 years this year, actually. So sometime in the 1920s, it was invented, and it's based on the marimba, the African marimba. And it's similar to a piano where if you just play a note on the piano, it will dissipate pretty much immediately. But it has a pedal, so that it creates sustain. And you can play a lot of different notes. You know. But generally, if we're playing trio, so my responsibilities in this specific setting is I'm having to play the melodies for the most part for all the pieces that we play, and also occasionally chords, which you'll see me do later, or at different moments. So with that being said, we're gonna talk about a contributor to kind of the jazz genre with who are we gonna do next? Let's do we're talking about some like Latin jazz, and probably the most influential composer in that realm was Antonio Carlos Jobim, and a lot of jazz musicians gravitated towards his music because of just the unique harmonies and the overall feel. Like Gavin was saying earlier, it's music that Latin music is one that is heavily based on rhythm and often is meant to be danced to. So we're gonna play a piece of Jobim's entitled Wave. same rules applied pretty much. Like, so I was kind of taking care of the melody, which is a beautiful melody. I love Joe Bean. And Nils was taking care of the harmony as well as the rhythm, which is why he's in the middle. He's kind of the bridge, right? And Gavin was taking care of the groove. I saw someone over here tapping their hand, right? It's hard not to feel that. So let's kind of break it down. So let's go with Gavin, because this is a rhythmic piece. So Gavin, like, kind of, could you explain the type of groove that you were playing on this?
For sure, this was more in the bossa nova vein, which is a rhythm out of Brazil. And the first song we played was more straight ahead jazz, so my feel switched from more of this to straighter, like just like a lot straighter rhythm, maybe a little bit lighter on the cymbals. And there has like a specific clave pattern that's like in a lot of Brazilian music, specifically bossas, but like it sounds a little more like this.
Could you just play the clave? So the clave is what he's playing on the rim of the snare drum, right? Can we all clap that? What's this one called, Gavin?
It's basically like just your basic bossa nova clave.
So let's get it going again, and then we'll add the bass and maybe chords. We'll see. So start it off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
When you're ready, like kind of what you would play. So you gotta lock it in. Can't get thrown off. You're now all drummers. So that's where it all starts. Everything starts with that clave. Everything else is just icing on the cake, right? We could, honestly, me and Nils could go home and Gavin could just play drums all day and that'd probably be entertainment enough, right? To get everybody dancing. So I guess the takeaways thus far is, rhythm is probably our most important thing, because without that, we're just kind of floating in the ether, which can be cool, but we're entertainers and people want to be entertained, and dancing is a good way. So I guess moving forward and branching, so we have the swing feel, and then we have the straighter bossa feel, and musicians like Herbie Hancock took all of these elements, as well as like some popular music, and branched out and did things that were a little bit more modern. Herbie Hancock's a pianist from Chicago. He played with Miles Davis, and pretty much, you probably, if you don't know him, I guarantee you've heard something that he's worked on. He actually won the first hip hop Grammy as a pianist for his song Rocket. Like what all the break dancers were doing, all the funky cool stuff in New York. So we're gonna play a piece of his called Butterfly, and kind of, I guess, we're now transitioning into things that we might hear more closely related to what's on the radio today. And we'll do a quick version of this one. Oh, we're making great time. Cool. So this is Butterfly. So you'll hear similar elements. This is another one that's not necessarily the swing pattern per se, where Nils is walking quarter notes nonstop like quarter notes, and Gavin's playing like a ride swung feel, but it's going to be a little bit more in between that and the more straighter post bossa. So. all of this is connected. Could we kind of tell, like, see some of the similarities between all of the pieces thus far, at least rhythmically? Even harmonically, a lot of the tunes are moving in similar ways. But Herbie's someone who's like really special because he kind of, in some circles, well, at least I believe that he kind of birthed hip hop, just with his ambition, and kind of was one of the first people to start using synthesizers and different keyboard sounds that we'll hear on a lot of music, or you'll see if you go to hear a lot of live music. Pianists will have all kinds of nonsense around them, and that is his doing, and it's incredible because it kind of opened up music in a way. So that's Herbie, and I don't know. Oh, we're gonna play another piece which is more mellow, and it's by the composer of the first tune, actually, Duke Ellington, who is one of the probably just most important composers in the history of music, I'd say, just because he one of the first to tour with a big band, which is a very large ensemble. If you go to weddings, you'll always see these massive bands with horn sections and whatnot. Duke Ellington is very much responsible for that line of thinking, and he did it in a time where a lot of black musicians weren't taken seriously. So he was taking these huge 20-piece bands of predominantly black musicians on the road all through the South, down the Chitlin circuit, which I'm sure was not glamorous at all. So I definitely, he has a special place in my heart for being very proactive and not letting anything stop him. And he wrote a lot of incredible music. We're gonna play one of his entitled "In a Sentimental Mood," and it's a ballad. So when you're thinking about ballads, very slow. People usually slow dance to these. When we have our weddings or when our presidents are elected, they always have like the first dance or whatever. It's always a very slow song, and that would be called a ballad. And jazz has a bunch of beautiful ones, and this is one of Duke Ellington's most famous compositions. We'll just start right on. more or less made to be danced to. It's supposed to be pretty. And Nils, kind of like, what are you thinking when you're playing a ballad?
Just in a ballad like Jalen's mentioning, you know, it's typically a slow dance type of a piece, and that being said, the slower tempo means there's a lot more space. You can choose to fill in or to leave open. Me as a bass player, you know, typically I'm playing more longer sustained chords and adding motion within that to fill in to keep the momentum moving forwards of the piece. So connecting the really sparse, you know, usually brushes and the drums and the melodic ideas that Jalen's playing. So trying to decide when to leave space and when to fill in, because the slower tempo usually means there's more space to choose either to fill in or to leave open.
Cool. Gavin, like, what is kind of what you're thinking as a drummer for the ballad?
So my role on drums, like you guys may have noticed, I switched from these sticks to these things called brushes. I'm doing more of a sweeping motion on my snare. And I'm still thinking groove. I'm still thinking something like people can dance to. Obviously, it's like a lot slower, but just trying to have like a consistent pulse and still, you know, being like very, very like locked in and in tune with both of what they're doing. But just, you know, keeping a very consistent speed. Obviously, like I'm, you know, using a lot, like I'm playing a lot less notes, like using a lot more space and like just kind of letting it breathe more. And brushes are cool because it just brings the whole dynamic and volume of like the drums like way down. And since they were playing quietly, like, you know, like I should be listening. I should be like hearing what they're doing. And if they're playing quietly, most of the time I should be playing quietly underneath them, you know, so I'm not overpowering them. Like people like to think of drums as a loud instrument, but honestly, like, you know, we have as much dynamic range as like any instrument. You know, I should be able to play like very efficiently soft. I should be able to play very efficiently loud, and, you know, every type of volume in between.
Yeah, and I think Gavin's dropping gems. So when we're playing, at least in this setting, since we're playing trio and there's not a ton of instruments up here on stage, we could kind of make the decision at a given moment when to play loud, when to play soft, and it's very easy to kind of communicate that across one another. And we've all played together quite a bit, so there's a level of like telepathy that's happening amongst us that allows us to make those types of musical decisions at a given moment. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of like life, right? It's trial and error. So every now and again, I might do something that I think is going to be just, you know, God's gift to music, and it might not be. More times than not, it's not. So, but they're gracious enough to maybe accept the idea, or maybe even more graciously to deny it. So, and I'm trying to do the same when I hear maybe Gavin play an accent over there on drums. I'm just trying to take what he's giving me and incorporate that into my improvisation or my musical decisions. Like I was saying earlier, it's a conversation between amongst us, and we can actually demonstrate that like really quickly. So we have like a few more minutes. But can we just like walk a blues, like kind of medium tempo, and we'll just play. Yeah. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we're just all listening. Like Gavin is playing accents here and there, comping in the snare drum and the bass drum. And we're just kind of going to play, and I'm going to accept maybe what they're doing, and they're going to accept maybe what I'm doing. just listening and trying to take each other's ideas and build off of that and create something that's fresh and worth listening to. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions? Anything at all? Right here.
How long have you guys been playing together?
So as a group, probably about 7 or 8 months now, right? Or 6 or 7 months. But it's interesting. Me and Gavin have been playing together for like the last 2-ish years. And we didn't give you guys too much background, which we'll refine that for tomorrow. I'm from Houston. I went to HSPVA, Johnston Middle School, and McGregor Elementary. And Gavin's also from Houston, right?
I went to Katy High School,
Yeah,
West Memorial Junior High.
other side of here.
Right.
And Nils is from, is it North or South Dakota?
From North Dakota, yeah, grew up in North Dakota.
But he's a Houstonian at this point because he went to Rice. He just graduated from Rice University. So me and Gavin met 2 years ago when I moved back from finishing my degree, and we played I don't know, it's been a lot of gigs thus far. And Gavin introduced me to Nils, and they have been playing together probably, I don't know.
Like
Yeah.
6, 7 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy how those types of things work out, and so now we've been playing together as a group for the last six or so months and going strong. It's been fun. So, anything else? Yes.
I was watching you set up your vibraphone there. I was just wondering, does a vibraphone ever need to be tuned?
Yeah, so all the bars are individually tuned. If they go out of tune, it's kind of hard to get them back in. But it's metal, so they heat the metal up really, really hot, and then they stretch it out, and they bang on them until they're the note that you're supposed to hear. And if I could take one off, you can see there's indentions on the bottom and grooves that kind of help the bar hold its tune and give it its note. So, anybody else? Yes.
Have you ever thought about getting somebody to sing with y'all? I mean,
Yeah, we all play with singers a lot. Probably Gavin and Nils a little bit more than me, but I even find myself, I played a gig. Starting last year, I was playing the gig every Thursday with a great singer in town at this place called Ivy. And same rules apply, except for there's one more person involved, and we're listening to listen to what they're doing, what songs they want to do, what keys, and a lot of the songs that we played today actually have lyrics to them, like all except for the first one, I think. So same thing, and the singer's role is that of a horn player. It's just there's words involved. So anybody else? Yes.
Who are some of your greatest musical inspirations and maybe even like your educational inspirations?
Oh, okay. Guess we'll go down the list. So a lot of the guys we played today, like Duke Ellington, Herbie Hancock, vibraphone and Stephon Harris. I love Stevie Wonder, one of the just greatest musicians ever. Educators, pretty much any professor I've ever had. I've been lucky to have some incredible teachers, even from when I was in elementary school here in Houston. Quiet as kept Houston has probably some of the best music programs, grade school level music programs in the country. And if you go anywhere and tell people that you're any musician that you're from Houston, they're like, oh, did you go to that high school? Because Beyonce's from here. She went to HSPVA. Robert Glasser, Jason Moran, who was just here with the camera a few months ago. James Francis, who's coming. Just a ton of names. So I'm lucky to have gone through so many of the same educators here.
Yeah, I guess I got into jazz music specifically. My dad always he listened a whole lot. Grew up listening to that music, so I started picking CDs off his wall. And some of the first ones that got me into this kind of music were like early Miles Davis Quintet recordings, like Cooking with Miles Davis Quintet or Kind of Blue or Milestones. And so I think some of those, it's like the first tune we played, Take the Coltrane, like that kind of like the upswing kind of. That side of jazz music, I guess, is what kind of caught my ear at first, and then you find a few people you like, and you start, Paul Chambers played with him. I wonder who else Paul Chambers played with. This famous bass player, Paul Chambers. You start in one area of jazz music, and before you know it, you start discovering a whole long list of great influences and stuff. So, what about you, Gavin? I wonder.
Yeah, mine were a lot of the same influences as them. I would really like Miles Davis's first quintet, but his second quintet really made like a big impression on me. And I try to channel a lot of that when I'm playing. Trying to think of some other names. They said a lot of good ones. Houston's own Robert Glasper, he was really big in my kind of developmental, or in my developmental years, when I was first starting to play drums. I was really listening to him a lot. And it just, it just so happened that he was from Houston, but a lot of the Houston drummers that went to the same high school that Jalen went, Kinder, Scott, Eric Harlan, they're all fantastic man meters. I was really into music. Chris Dave as well. So, yeah.
Anything else? Anybody else?
How did you decide to pick out the instruments that you're playing?
Oh, okay. We'll go back down the road. I started off playing drums at McGregor Elementary. When you're in the 3rd grade or 2nd grade or one of the grades, you have to pick an instrument. And I actually grew up across the street from TSU, so even, I would hear their band practicing all the time. And of course, the loudest thing is the cymbals and the drums and whatnot. So I was like, I kind of want to do that. And as I started taking music lessons, one of my private lessons instructors made me learn all of the percussion instruments. So anything you could hit, he kind of forced me to learn. Thus, eventually I kind of fell in love with this one because I could hit it just like a drum, but also has a little bit more melodic versatility than a drum set. So I kind of just stuck with it after high school.
So I started playing upright bass when I was in elementary school, kind of early on, like when Jalen started playing drums. So in my elementary school, you could either pick up orchestra in 4th grade or band in 5th grade. My brother played trumpet, so that maybe I'd play in band. But my folks kind of encouraged me, you got an extra year before 5th grade, just try a string instrument. You don't have to stick with it if you don't like it. And so through kind of talking to my folks about it. My dad knew that you could play all kinds of styles of music, not just classical, not just jazz, but you could do all kinds of different things if you pick up the bass. And the elementary school I went to had a little tiny half-size one. So when I was a 10-year-old kid, I could start, playing my little half-size bass. And I just fell in love with it, stuck with it, had good teachers in middle school and high school from there. And then just kind of stuck with it. There's so many different kinds of music you can play as an upright bass player. And I play electric bass too, so you can, there's just a long list of genres you can fit into as a bass player. So I find that really fun. So.
So I started playing, percussion, like snare drum, bass drum, cymbals, marimba, stuff like that, in 6th grade. I just signed up for band, it was always something that kind of piqued my interest. But I never really got into the classical side of things. I really respect the music and I really like it, but it was my freshman year of high school. I saw one of my best friends still to this day practicing drum set in one of the little practice rooms, and I was like, man, you sound great, what are you practicing for? He's like, oh, we got jazz band auditions coming. I was like, we have a jazz band? You can play drum set? So that whole summer, I really I think I was 15 or 16. I was I just didn't have an outlet to play drum set, but I always wanted to. So, I started getting really serious, staying after school and stuff, and just really practicing, trying to catch up with everyone else that had been playing for years and years before. So I got a pretty late start on it, but just really trying to make up for lost time, just putting in the extra work, I guess.
Okay. I think we're getting the signal to. Yep. Well, thank you guys so much.
I'm the signal, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us virtually and online. And on behalf of High Meadows Library and the Harris County Public Library System, we would like to thank DACAMERA and the Jalen Baker Trio for this beautiful performance. I know I enjoyed it, and I hope you did as well. Thank you all for being here.
All right, thank you guys again from us, and come to a DACAMERA show. There's a lot of great music and it's very affordable for everyone. I think there's one this weekend, right, Ellie?
Yeah.
But it's sold out.
Well, it's coming to TV on Sunday, but we're sold out.
Okay, well, don't go to the one.
But plenty of people.
Thank you guys.